Happy Halloween season! It is not only October, but the temperatures have been dropping in my area. It's been around 50 degrees all week and super rainy, so it definitely feels like time to decorate for the spooky season. Now, I am not a gory, creepy, scary kind of Halloween girl. I've mentioned before my favorite Halloween movie of all time is Halloweentown, so I'm all about the cutesy, cheesy, cozy kind of Halloween. So if you're really into scary stuff, I'm sorry, this is probably not the video for you, but if you like cute, cozy fall and Halloween decor, we'll call it Falloween, welcome. Let's get started. Now, we are going to be hosting a friend's Halloween party this year, so I do want to make sure there's lots of Halloween touches throughout our house, including lots of ambient lighting to really set the mood for this party. I want to start with the fireplace mantle. If you saw my fall decorating video, you would have seen my process for decorating this area, but I want to add some Halloween touches to it. I do have a very rustic theme in here, so I want to stick with that. I grabbed an old book from the thrift store and I just started drawing a bat. Once I was happy with the way that it looked, I cut it out and used that bat as a stencil. I cut out a bunch of bats. If drawing just really isn't your thing, or you can't get it quite the way you like, you could always print out a bat. There's lots of free SVG or JPEG files online, and then you could cut that out as a stencil. I really enjoyed doing it by hand. I could have used my Cricut as well, but something just kind of brought me back to my childhood as I cut these out. I used to make decorations for my room as a kid out of paper for all of the holidays, especially for Halloween. I would print pictures online and color them and just plaster them on my walls. So it was quite fun to just do something the old-fashioned way. Next, I grabbed some distress ink and I just rubbed it along the edges to give it an old-fashioned or distressed look. If you wanted to do this but didn't have ink, you could also use like tea bags, or I've even heard coffee grounds, although I've never tried it. I just attached these little bats with masking tape. I tested it out first and I know it won't rip the paint off my walls, and because these bats are so light, the tape held up really well. 2 weeks ago, I found a bunch of Halloween lights at Big Deal outlets, including these cute little pumpkin string lights. You'll see me use orange lights other places in my house as well. I got them all at Big Deal outlet for $1.99, so never underestimate the power of Big Deal outlet. I also grabbed some more of those string lights and I'm going to use them to make some garland along this banister. We have a tri-level house, so this is the view you see from the kitchen and dining room area. I don't know if I love the banister in the sense that it makes everything look a little bit busy, but I do love the fact that it's open and you can see down into the family room. Kind of just brings everyone together, so I wanted to celebrate that by creating some cute garland in this area. I kind of want to mimic the garland that's on our fireplace. If you saw my fall decorate with me video, actually it was my fall crafting video, I made this garland using strips of fabric. So I'm going to continue that theme. I'm just cutting out strips of fabric from old clothes. This is a dress that doesn't fit anymore, it's too short, and I also have a shirt that I got from the thrift store and an old scarf that I got for a few cents at Goodwill that I am just cutting to make strips of fabric. This is going to give it a very homemade, organic, and cozy feel. I always say there are 3 main reasons why we DIY or craft, and I think it comes down to one or all of these 3 things. It could be for the fun of it, the creative expression, it could be just to create something custom that you want a certain way, and third, it often comes down to saving money. I like to be as resourceful as possible in my decorating because not only does it save money, but it's also just better for the environment to repurpose and reuse things. I also just find it really rewarding to be creative with the things that are in front of me. I'm not perfect at it. I do buy new things sometimes, but I love repurposing old items. I was going to make these little felt ghosts, but I actually found some at the dollar store that were cheaper than buying the felt for the ghosts. So I just took out the eye holes. I didn't really love the mouth or the little lines at the bottom of the ghost, so I only removed the eye holes. And then I just used wire to attach them to the rope. I put them in between each cluster of fabric. I attached the garland by using wire and just wrapping it around the banister. It was pretty simple to attach and stayed really well. I think this is so cute. I know it's cheesy. I love it for that. I think it ties in really well with the fireplace mantle and fits the theme of the room. Okay, this was one of the few things I did buy brand new. I got them on Amazon and they're just these little candles. You add batteries and there's a remote that turns them all on. I got them because they add the most magical touch to a house. I saw them at a Halloween party a few years ago. My friend had them and brought them to decorate with, and I decided that it was time to invest in some. So I added batteries to each candle, and then I wanted to hang them from this little alcove that we have. We have these bay windows in our kitchen, and I just wanted them to hang from that. I wanted these lights to hang straight, so I grabbed some fishing wire and I just tied it to each side of the candle so that there was tension coming from both sides. This helped straighten the candle so it didn't lean by only attaching it to one side. Then I just started hanging them from our little bay window alcove. We have really tall vaulted ceilings in our kitchen and living room area, which I love, but it's really hard to hang things from, so I wanted to take advantage of the lower ceiling in this little alcove. If you've been following along, you know that we just bought our house a few months ago and we are still getting settled in, and we don't actually have a real dining table yet or curtains in this area, so I know those are important steps. We'll get there. I actually want to make our dining room table out of reclaimed wood, and I'm trying to source that wood, which is kind of why it's taking so long. And so if you don't see curtains or a normal table, just know that's why. It is coming eventually. I want some little bats to hang from this ceiling area, and I also want to put them in other places around the kitchen. I want a lot of bats. So at this point, as much fun as I had cutting out the book page bats, I decided to use my Cricut, especially because some of these bats were really small and detailed, and it just would save me a lot of time. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just getting it all formatted. I used an SVG from online that was free, uploaded it, and canceled out the background, and then I copied and pasted in multiple sizes and just cut it out, and now I'm hanging it with fishing wire. I just taped to the ceiling. Honestly, they're so light that the tape is holding up just fine. I grabbed my thrifted book once again and tore out a bunch of pages and decided to put them on the ceiling as well. I wanted them hanging down, giving that really mystical look. I thought the candles gave me Harry Potter Great Hall vibes, and so I thought it was fun to add some book pages because they remind me of that scene in Harry Potter where Harry gets his letter from Hogwarts that he's been accepted, but his uncle won't let him open it, and so the school sends him a bunch more letters and there's just papers flying everywhere. I love this little corner. It is very magical, and I think it'll be a really fun touch when we host our Halloween party. Hopefully by then we have our dining room table and some curtains, and it will just really set the mood for this space. It was dark outside and getting really cold, so my husband and I decided it was time to figure out how to use this fireplace. Now, I know this fireplace glass desperately needs a good cleaning. I just need to figure out how to get it out, so ignore that. It took us a long time, but we finally figured it out, and by we, I mean mostly my husband. He's a trooper. He really got it going. We were ready to cozy up by this fireplace and watch a movie on our projector, but before our movie night began, I had one last craft I wanted to start because I needed it to dry. I wanted to make one of those cheesecloth ghosts. My niece made one recently that turned out so cute, so I wanted to try it, but I wanted to make a big one. I used a stool, covered it in a plastic bag, and a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern. Then I mixed some Mod Podge and water and just dipped my cheesecloth in the mixture. I got it nice and soaked and then wrung it out a little bit and just draped it until I was happy with it. I used wire to create hands for this ghost because I want to make a little sign for it to hold. Now, you'll notice we waited for a little bit, we watched our movie, came back, and it was just not hardening the way I wanted it to. So my husband had the idea to try putting the mixture in a spray bottle and spraying it down really well. And this mostly worked. When I came back the next morning, it had hardened for sure. It was holding its shape really well, but once I took it off the stand, it just wasn't strong enough to hold itself up. I think that part of it was just, it was a really big ghost, and so it had a little bit more weight to hold up. And the other thing is, I think if I had used more cheesecloth and doubled up everywhere, it would have been a lot stronger, because the parts that were doubled up held up pretty well. So I knew standing this ghost wasn't going to be an option, so instead I decided to hang it. I wanted a light inside of it, so I took my one leftover hanging candle and I just threaded it through inside of this ghost. Then I created a little ring on top and I attached string to it in 3 different parts so that it was getting support from 3 different sides. I wrapped the string around a thumbtack and just attached it to the ceiling. I'm not really worried about leaving a hole here. I don't think it'll be noticeable. So I just pushed it in and it's hanging up really well. I've had it up for a few days now and it hasn't fallen. Next, it was time to make the little sign and the eyes for this ghost. This is what was going to turn this ghost from a hanging piece of cheesecloth into a cute little goal. So I grabbed some paper. I already had this scrapbooking paper and I liked the kind of vintage old world feel of it. So I cut little triangles and I just kind of experimented until I found the format that I liked. I did this by hand, and once again I only needed 3 little pieces of this banner because I want it to say boo. And so I just kind of trimmed away until I was happy with it. Once I had a stencil and I could cut out 2 more. For the letters on my little sign, I used an acrylic paint pen and I just wrote them by hand. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's totally fine. You could use letter stickers, you could cut them out on a Cricut, you could trace from a printed piece of paper, or even print them out on a piece of paper, cut them out, and glue them on. There's lots of options if calligraphy is just not your thing or you want your letters to look a certain way. This night will be okay. Waking up to another day. I just used hot glue to attach the sign and the eyes, and it has held up really well. I used some command hooks to hang these little lights around the window and just some glue dots to hang some little spider web that I got from the dollar store. I wanted to add some more ambient lighting to this space just for the sake of our Halloween party. And shout out to my husband because he will just hang out with me while I work on all these little projects. He'll help me when I need it. And he's just so supportive and I love him. He's awesome. Next, I just grabbed some bottles that I had gotten at the thrift store. I got them in 3 different sizes, and I thought they were really beautiful jars. I want to turn them into amber glass, obviously fake amber glass, but nonetheless, I am excited to make these look like little apothecary bottles. So I grabbed some brown food coloring and some Mod Podge, and I just mixed them together. Keep in mind that the more food coloring you add, the darker your bottles will be, the less transparent they will be. I wanted mine pretty dark, so I went ahead and added quite a bit of food coloring. I mixed it together and then just poured it inside of each bottle. Once I had poured a good amount in, I just swirled it around so that it coated the entire inside. I added a little bit more as needed until I was happy and felt like it had coated the entire bottle. I got this little candy dish from a neighbor who was having a garage sale, and I thought it looked like a little pumpkin, so I tried the same method using orange, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Next, I baked my glassware at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for a couple of hours. This is where you want to be careful because glass can break in the heat, so just keep your oven at a low temperature. I researched apothecary labels. I want these to look like little potion bottles. After some research, I decided that I wanted to keep these labels pretty modern looking. I found a template that I liked in Canva, and so I just changed the names and a few of the details there, and I gave them all Harry Potter potion names. Here's how my glassware turned out. The orange was a little bit interesting. It clumped up in a lot of areas. I think it was just the type of glassware that I used, but I still think it's really cute. Looks like a little pumpkin. These bottles turned out awesome. The big one was the hardest one to do, and it did leave some streaks, but there were no streaks on the other two, the smaller ones. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how these look. They look like amber glass. I cut out my potion labels, and I just used a glue stick to attach them. I want them to be kind of removable in case I want to use these bottles for other seasons, not just Halloween. I decided to use these as candlestick holders. I liked the way that they were tiered, and I thought they were the perfect size to hold candles, but another fun idea would be to add dried flowers to them or use them as just a flower vase in general. Remember the garland that we made yesterday to go on the banister? Well, I thought it would be fun to add some witchy vibes right above that. We have a big tall ceiling and that kind of awkward cutout, so I just wanted to do something to add some visual interest. I started by making these little banner pieces out of the book pages from that same thrifted book that I showed you earlier and antiquing the edges with an ink pad. I want this banner to look like it was made straight from the pages of the Sanderson Sisters spellbook. I started writing my letters. I want this to say Hocus Pocus. Again, there are lots of alternative options if you don't want to write it out by hand. After writing all the letters, I went back through and I just darkened the downstroke and added little tails to the edges of the letters. This just kind of elevated the look of my letters and helped give it more of a calligraphy feel. I really wanted those letters to pop, so I backed it with some black construction paper. Centering this banner was actually really easy because I had the banister below, so I just counted the rungs on the banister, started with the middle one, and lined it up. I used sticky tack putty to hang these letters, and they've stayed up really well. I've had no issues. Normally sticky tack putty and I are not the best of friends, but I did have some extras, and it's working really well. I found these cute little cinnamon cranberry brooms at my local grocery store, and they smell amazing. So I used command strips, I wired them to command hooks, and hung them just right above the banner, and I am really happy with the cute witchy vibes that this is giving off. This is giving off total Disney Channel Halloween movie. We just have our garbage can sitting out in our kitchen, and I want to build a little shelf for it to go under eventually, but for now it's open, so I added the leftover bats, and I made it look like they were coming out of the garbage can. I just thought it was a fun way to play off of what we have. Let's check out our Halloween house at night. It is so cozy and I am so excited. My name is Jenneca. I make home-centered content designed to inspire creativity and resourcefulness. Things like DIY, crafting, decorating, organization. I post videos weekly, usually on Fridays, and my whole goal is just to inspire that creativity and resourcefulness and help people turn their houses into homes. Home really does matter, and I believe that home is where you make it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like. Your support means the world, and if you're looking forward to future content, please hit subscribe. I will be posting more content, so stay tuned.